So the thing that surprises me the most about The Summer I Turned Pretty is that even though it is a deeply dramatic show about a teen love triangle, as explicitly marketed as teen TV, it has this gigantic adult fan base. And you know what? I'm one of them. But also, how did this happen? I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Sarah Hunter Simonson is here. Megan Angelo is here. Hello to both of you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Elamin.
Hi, it's nice to have you here. Listen, I'm Sarah Hunter. I'm going to start with you. And just to give people maybe a general primer, The Summer I Turned Pretty, we are following Isabel Conklin, but no one calls her Isabel. She is Belly to all of us. And she is in a love triangle with these brothers, Jeremiah and Conrad. And it sometimes gets complicated, but what's nice about it is that we also end up in a lovely little beach town called Cousins. And it's so nice for when we return to Cousins Beach, but also maybe it's nice to start by describing to people who've never seen the show, what does it feel like to watch an episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty?
So it feels like the most idyllic, perfect teen summer that you never actually experienced in real life. And there's like beach bonfires, there's sneaking pomegranate margaritas, there's pining at parties, flirting in the pool, like all of the things you wish you'd been able to do as a teenager.
I love that description because it is entirely that. Like it's like every time I'm watching an episode, I'm like, that doesn't happen in real life. Like we think we want this to happen, but that no one has a beach and a beach life like this. Megan, at first glance, this does not seem like a show that is particularly catered or trying to target millennials, and yet we are left with the reality that a lot of millennials love the show. What is it about the show that you think sort of strikes at that nostalgia of teen drama for an older generation?
Yeah, so it's funny. I thought I was the only one for a long time, and then this community just kind of exploded. But, I've thought a lot about it. I think it taps into some of the great early aughts shows of the millennials upbringing. Like Dawson's is kind of the classic love triangle show,
Shout out Dawson's,
right?
yes.
The OC definitely had that great escapism quality. Everybody was sneaking margaritas on that show. The adults, when they were supposed to be at work, everybody. But I also think that like Jenny Han is a genius because she's really good at making something for everyone.
Jenny Han
not...
wrote the books, also wrote
Yes.
the adaptation of this of the show. Yes.
Yeah. She's the showrunner. She controls everything. And like even the music, I texted my friend after the first episode of season 3, and I was like, they were listening to the Cranberries, right? Like they were singing Nelly. Like that's from our college parties. So Jenny Han definitely sneaks things in for the millennials, and I appreciate it so much.
Just on the Dawson's reference, I don't know if you saw these pictures, but yesterday these pictures were going around of Katie Holmes and Joshua Jackson filming something. We don't know what that thing is. And just to see them standing next to each other, I was like, oh, I'm 14 again. Like immediately and instantly, like just like looking at it, it was like this immediately overwhelming sensation. Did you see those photos too, Sarah Hunter?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I saw them within minutes of them posting because my phone started blowing up. And
Emergency.
all of the people texting me about those photos, by the way, are the same people constantly texting me as soon as any Summer I Turn Pretty news drops. So I was like, the crossover here is great.
Yeah, I think there is the streets are longing, right? The streets are sort of longing for that level of yearning that we saw in Dawson's. And there's something about this show that at least signals to you that is familiar with that level of yearning. You've both written about the growing number of people in their 30s and their 40s who watch the show. Sarah Hunter, maybe I'll ask you, because you've talked to a lot of those people who've gotten really deeply into the fandom. What do you learn from those people? Like, what kind of stuff are they telling you?
Yeah, so I worked on this fun reported piece where I got to talk to lots of millennials who are as big of a fan as I am. And one of them, so Casey and Vicky are this millennial couple who do this podcast called Better with Glasses. And it started because Vicky, when the show dropped in 2022, the first season, she was 33. She binged all 7 episodes in one sitting while her husband was at work. He comes home from work and she's like, can't stop talking about it for days. And she's like, okay, I've gone through all the Instagram reels, like TikToks, everything on BuzzFeed at the time. Like, I can't stop. And her husband was like, well, maybe you should make a podcast and maybe you'll find other people who want to talk about it as much as you do. And then he ended up becoming so invested in the show that now they co-host it. And what they found that I've also found to be true is all of these people immediately started reaching out to them, like DMs and comments and emails saying, you've validated my love for the show. And like my spouse or my friends didn't understand why I can't stop talking about this teenage love triangle, even though I'm in my 30s or 40s. And so I think the seriousness with which they approach it has made other people feel like oh yeah, it's okay that I love this thing too.
I
So,
extremely relate to that because I was 34 when the first season dropped, and I did not have any intention of following the show. But then I sat down, and then I was like, "Oh no, I can't get up until I'm done entirely watching the first season." That's kind of how I got into it. Maybe we should return back to the describing the setting a little bit, Megan. Like this idea of okay, we are in Cousins Beach. What sort of escapism do you think the show is offering for people? Because I think Sarah Hunter got at the idea of like you're sneaking margaritas. That's what that feels like. But also, what kind of setting are we in when we watch a show?
Oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. It's the house that everybody grows up wanting to have, right? Like
Yes.
it somehow manages to be like Cape Cod and Hamptons coded all at the same time. Everyone has like a perfect beach cruiser. And like the main thing on the agenda for summer is laying in the sparkling pool, being like, oh, two hot guys love me. Like, you know, it doesn't get much more escapist than that, honestly. And so, I kind of think that's another way they suck you in, right? The Nancy Meyer's kitchen, the hydrangea
Hmm.
bushes, the clothes. But like the more I got into the show, the more I realized that the real luxury is time. Like the real escapism is the time they're able to spend on the show. Because for the young people, it's that thing of like, I have all the time in the world to not worry about the state of the world, to not think about anything out there, to just think about this sort of timeless quest to understand who I am and who I really love. And for the people in their 40s like me, it's kind of tapping into that fantasy that you say every time you're with your old friends, like, we're going to get a house and we're going to spend every summer together and our kids are going to grow up together. Like, that's the dream.
Yeah.
And on this show, they actually do it. It's not realistic for most of us, but that time, the way they depict it is such a luxury.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought up the Nancy Meyer's kitchen because one, unbelievable kitchen, but two, I think like there is something that the show does that the books don't do, right? Which is like the show sort of spends quite a bit of time with the lives of the parents. Like so, like you're sort of Belly's mom, and then like the mom of the two boys. You are sort of introduced to their lives as adults. Sort of, they've had this long time friendship. They're trying to navigate the ups and downs of that friendship alongside this love triangle kind of playing out. Sarah Hunter, what do you make of the way that the adults' lives play out on the show?
so I had the opportunity to interview Jackie Chung, who plays Belly's mom, Laurel.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she talked about in our conversation was how most teen shows, I feel like the focus on the parent relationship is how the parents work in relation to the kids. And
Mm.
their storylines usually serve the kids. But in this show, I think what's so unique is it expanded on the book and gave these adult characters, especially Laurel, Belly's mom, so many different arcs and storylines. And so you see her mom navigating like life post divorce, and you see her navigating her career, and also the loss of a friend from cancer and grieving. And how do you do that while parenting kids who are also grieving? And I think what this show does best to me is that the complexity that it gives her is the same complexity it gives Belly. And it really emphasizes how growing up never ends. And so I think it's a coming of age story for teens, but also in many ways for adults, because Laurel gets things like she loves her kids, she's very present, but she's also very imperfect, which I just think is such a great thing to see on TV because you don't get to see that as an adult, especially as a parent.
That's what I miss the most about the OC, right? Like watching that show and sort of like watching the Coens parent. The Coens were imperfect all the time, and then they were like, "Oh no, I think I might have messed that up as a parent. Perhaps I should try again." And like that draws you into the show because there is something a bit more real and lived in when it comes to these people. Megan, there's also been a few changes, right? A few changes from the books to the TV show, and so one of the changes, for example, is Belly is half Korean in the TV show. She's not in the books. Jeremiah is bisexual, but that does not really, get particularly explored. It's kind of like, oh, there's a thing that happened one time, and then we kind of move on. What do you make of the changes that they tried to make in terms of adapting it to the TV show?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I think the changes are right for the time, honestly. And I think they're also right, by the way, for the level of Jenny Han's power within the industry.
Hmm.
That she can make decisions that reflect a wider number of heritages, including hers, I think is key. And, when we talk about the shows that we're evoking the nostalgia for, it's like the OC was laughably white.
It's the whitest possible show on television.
What
Yes,
is
100%.
possible show,
Yeah.
memorably straight, except for Misha Barton and Olivia Wilde had the storyline that was like, wow, that was earth shattering, right? To
Yeah.
see two teenagers of the same sex hooking up, even though it was probably happening everywhere at the time. So I think that it makes it feel very current for the audience it's playing to. And I also think, nobody makes a show like this to teach people. That's not how you want it to feel. But I do think it's nice that there's like some sneaky edification in there, maybe for older viewers who wouldn't necessarily choose the show to explore issues like that, but who are kind of being backdoored into like, okay, this is what life is now. This is realistic and authentic, and learn some other perspectives.
I'll tell you this, I love the show. I love watching the show. I can't take another season of Belly being this messy. So I'm like, let's get this
Yeah.
maybe. Let's get to begin to sort of land this plane is something that I would maybe welcome at this point. But maybe the place to leave it, Sarah Hunter, is that like, I saw this really interesting thing, which is like their Instagram account, the official show's Instagram account, posted like this, basically a heads up to the fan base being like, hey, please don't engage in hate speech or doxing or harassment of any of the stars or the fans, or otherwise it'd be banned by the account. And like, just coming a few days after the Love Island account did the same thing, be like, hey, you guys are being a little bit too intense. Something interesting with fandom is happening there. What do you make of the fact that they had to issue that statement?
I think it's so emblematic of just like the cultural moment we are with the internet, where fandoms feel like even more compelled to have like their feelings and their opinions about another character are more, can be hateful and they can be mean because they feel everything so intensely. And there's just not the same level of nuance or separation between an actor and the actor's character. And I know Christopher Briney's talked about this some, and I think it's why all the cast in a lot of the interviews, because their most asked question is like, are you team Conrad? Are you team Jeremiah? And a lot of them will pick a team, but then they're like, but we're all team Belly. And so I think that it's really this idea of like, okay, we know everyone's really passionate about their like corner or point of the love triangle, but you need to also realize like it's still a story with actors.
Yeah, I think like it sort of makes me think that like had Twilight come out now, like the warnings they would have to put out between Team Edward and Team Jacob would have been unparalleled levels of warning of like, please, heads up, do not get involved in this because you need to sort of warn the fandom in that regard. We got to leave it there, but I really appreciate your time, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sarah Hunter Simonson is a freelance culture writer, and Megan Angelo is a culture writer and author. You can catch the latest episodes of the final season of The Summer I Turned Pretty right now on Amazon Prime.
This is a story about Billy Joe and Bobby Sue.
I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. That right there, that is Steve Miller Band, Take the Money and Run. Listen, this summer, Steve is going to leave a little bit of that money on the table because Steve Miller announced that he's scrapping the rest of the summer tour. Why? He's worried about the extreme weather. He's not the only one either. We've seen a bunch of outdoor concerts severely impacted by storms, by heat, by flooding. So, is this a new normal as the climate changes? And can promoters actually adjust to the ways that extreme weather is changing the concert economy? Jem Aswad is here to talk about this. Jem, nice to see you, pal. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Listen, what was your reaction when you heard that the Steve Miller Band had canceled the tour?
Quite honestly, my first reaction was, oh my gosh, this is the first tour to be canceled by climate change, basically. Tours are often canceled by, weather, hurricanes, lightning, things like that, but not a full tour. Looking closely at the sales for the tour, which were still up on Ticketmaster, I think 24 hours after the cancellation was announced, the sales were very soft. So
Okay.
you have to figure that figured into it as well. But at the same time, there have been a lot of online forums and members of Steve Miller's band. Steve Miller is 81 years old.
Yeah.
And, one of his band members was saying things like, all you people who say it was canceled just because of sales, you haven't seen Steve doubled over the end of a show at an outdoor amphitheater from heat exhaustion. So, you factor in his age and the inevitable effects of climate change, which we're seeing more and more every single day. It seems to be a sensible decision for him.
I want to come back to that idea of an 81-year-old struggling after putting on a show in the middle of a heat wave. But maybe I want to ask you about the reaction of this. The reaction, so as this announcement kind of came out, what was the reaction from the fan base of the Steve Miller Band?
Well, from his fan base, there was some disappointment, probably not a whole lot, because he's toured quite a lot in recent years.
Yeah.
And they also would probably be feeling sympathy for him. Outside of his fan base, there was a lot of cynicism about the ticket sales
Hmm.
situations. Oh, he's blaming it on the weather, you know?
That is something that I've heard about other canceled tours, like the idea of like every time that a tour gets canceled and someone's like, "Oh, I got to spend time with my family." Like maybe that is true, but also the ticket sales were not all that hot. In this particular case, I do take the thing that the band is saying seriously, right? Like the idea of like, hey, this is an 81-year-old artist being cautious about his health. Do you see it as an individual case of, okay, this has to do with Steve Miller and his health, or do you kind of see it as a canary in the coal mine just for the concert industry at large?
Oh, it is 100% a canary in a coal mine
Hmm.
because so many of the biggest touring artists are old and they're playing outside. And if you're even, I mean, I saw some shows at MetLife in New Jersey earlier this year that had the opposite problem. It was pouring, it was freezing
Hmm.
for the SZA and Kendrick Lamar shows and Beyonce shows in New Jersey, and it was May. So, weather is
Yeah.
crazy, and you amplify that if you've got Paul McCartney up there, who is 83, I think. He's a man of steel, obviously, but if the sun were beating down, or even if it weren't, and it
Mhm.
was just 95 degrees on stage, that is going to have a much bigger effect on someone of his age than it is on a 27-year-old.
And I do think that like there's the thing to remember for all of us is that summer is traditionally the concert season. Like that's a season that artists are like, we're gonna gear up and get ready to hit the road during the summer because like that's when people want to go out and want to see those outdoor concerts. The Bonnaroo Festival recently made this announcement that ties into all of this. This is a really big festival, right? It happens in Manchester, Tennessee, and then this happened.
It's a mass exodus from Manchester Saturday as people pack up their gear and leave Bonnaroo early.
I cried all morning. I couldn't even take the tape down.
It was kind of sad. It was really sad.
Festival organizers announced Friday night that the threat of severe weather ultimately led to the decision to cancel.
We're like up in the ankles with mud and water. We had tents flooding and it was really a bad situation.
The threat of severe weather leading to cancellation. So, Jem, that's News Channel 5 in Nashville reporting on cancellation of Bonnaroo. Last week, the festival said, you know what, it's going to be back next year, but with some significant changes in response to the fact that this year was a washout. Like, what is the festival planning? Do we know what they have sort of up their sleeves ahead of next year?
Yeah, they've announced it. And Bonnaroo is very communicative with its audience, and there's a very positive relationship there because it's been going since I think 1999. It is one of the biggest music festivals in the United States and thus the world. Having said that, they have had enormous weather problems, especially in the last 3 years. This festival has been canceled twice in 4 years because of weather.
Wow.
The first time was in 2022, when it was held later in the year than it traditionally is. It's usually in June. They moved it to September because we were still in COVID. There, the threat was lightning. Okay.
Right.
But they said, oh, it's a different time of year. The weather, we didn't really predict that weather. No, I think it was rainfall. It was flooding then as well. I'm sorry, my bad. But this year they held it at the traditional time, and there was such severe flooding that they had to evacuate the campground.
Yeah.
If our initial reaction was because they got one night in, and Thursday night and Friday they had to cancel. And the initial reaction is, why do they have to cancel all weekend if it's just raining today? And that's because of the flooding, because it is a camping festival. It's basically in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So, that is a place where once you get there, you're staying. And what options do they have? Oh, sorry, I didn't answer your question, which was, what are they doing to mitigate that going forward?
Yeah.
They're moving some of the campgrounds to higher ground. They are diminishing the number of campers who will be on the site. They didn't really say that, but that's what it adds up to.
Yeah.
And the festival has to get smaller.
The idea that a festival has to get smaller in order to actually even happen at all as a response to extreme weather or like the unpredictability of weather, that's a really significant response to me. What do you make of their response? Like, what does that tell you about where Bonnaroo is at right now?
It's the only thing they can do. That part of the country, West Tennessee, Kentucky, areas like that have been ravaged by hurricanes and flooding and severe weather for years to an increasing degree. So it is really the only thing they can do. The situation they're in is they might as well be real estate developers with properties on the Florida coastline.
Wow.
It's just a matter of time. But in the meantime, but these are gradual things. It's very unpredictable. They can continue for a while, but it just seems that after a certain point, it's going to become too much of a roll of the dice every single year, because when they lose millions of dollars when they have to cancel like that.
Now, if you had to cancel 2 out of 4 years, right? Like if you have to cancel your festival 2 out of 4 years, suddenly that's a focusing thing. You suddenly have to say, okay, that's a thing I have to take seriously and more consistently and plan for it all the time. But I'm not sure that I see that's where the rest of the industry is at. Where do you see the rest of the live music industry taking climate change as a threat seriously, or are we not quite there yet?
I mean, look at this country, okay?
You're in the United States, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there is such rampant, oblivious, deliberate climate change denial. It's absolutely infuriating, and it's only going to make things worse. How is that going to affect the live industry? It is going to be increasingly significant, because there are festivals all over the country that will be impacted by wildfires. Okay, you can't have an outdoor festival if people can't breathe.
Yeah, Coachella's not going to happen if people can't breathe. Like that's just not an option. Yeah.
Yeah, that is probably relatively safe, because at least yet there aren't that many wildfires in April. But you start getting into the summer and they're going on all summer. It's happening in Canada. So that is very significant. You've also got to deal with the flooding and just the unpleasantness of heavy rain. And most significant in terms of the threat, you've got lightning. There was a major New York is Back festival organized by Clive Davis in 2022, I think, held in Central Park, that had to be canceled before any of the major headliners went on because of lightning threats. And, we were all geared up for this 4-hour concert, and it lasted about an hour and everybody had to go home.
When you think about, I got about a minute left here, but when you think about the music industry in general, I think of the music industry as a more responsive industry than other industries, which is to say, like, okay, the internet's coming, it's going to change our business model. Let's figure out how to work with it. Sure, it takes a bit of time, and then eventually the industry does figure out that particular threat. When you think about this kind of threat, do you see the music industries kind of rallying around and saying, this is a crisis, we have to figure this out now? Or do you see signs of kind of like actually saying, we'll figure that out when it's a real crisis, when we have to cancel all the bigger festivals?
It's really a combination of the two. When you talk about the music industry's responsiveness to streaming, they stuck their heads in the sand for 15 years. It was only Spotify that saved it. Yeah. They just wanted it to go away, and they wanted people to keep buying CDs and refused to admit that the world had changed. Frankly, because a lot of the executives were older and not that enlightened when it came to technology. With this, you see companies like Live Nation and AEG, which are very responsive to changes in the marketplace, and they realize that this is an existential threat. At the same time, well, at least Live Nation is a publicly traded company. They have to, keep things positive for investors, because as soon as investors get scared, they leave. So, it's going to be a balance of the two, but Live Nation also owns Ticketmaster. As maligned as Ticketmaster is, with every single problem they've had, and I'm not being an apologist for Ticketmaster, they have taken measures to try to fix it, and they're going to try to do the same thing with this. But how do you fix the weather?
Well, if you could answer that question, then I would be a much wealthier man. But in the meantime, Jem, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me again. All the best.
Yes, of course. Talk to you soon. Jem Aswad is a writer and executive music editor for Variety. That is it for the show today. But look, before we go, I just want to congratulate Katie Massey, because she won our latest contest. If you missed it, we did an Instagram giveaway of all 6 books in the new Canada Classics collection. We've got incredible novels in there, including Medicine Walk by Richard Wagamese and Marian Engel's Bear. If you want to keep up with our future giveaways, by the way, please follow us on Instagram. We are at Commotion CBC. In the meantime, that is it for the show today. My name name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. I'm going to be off for the next few days, but my pal Eli Glasner is going to be filling in till the end of this week. And then I will see you again next week. Have a great day.